Big Z Reviews. Three Body Problem is a big new Netflix TV series that just came out, and I enjoyed it. It's an interesting take on, the alien invasion concept that is really different from anything we've seen before.
Back in 1977, they detected a sequence, called it the wow signal.
They are coming.
Who are they? That's the question, right?
So I'm familiar with Three Body Problem, but I haven't read the books. I think I had bought the books for my brother, for one Christmas, years ago, and I talked to him about the books and the concept of a dark forest. But it's such an interesting way to look at it. But you always have to there are different things you have to look at for why that, whether there are aliens in the universe, whether we are alone or not. And there's the Fermi paradox and a bunch of different things about describing that why there aren't aliens talking to us right now. There's a lot of different things, but to me, what I always grasp is that the universe is so big and there's so much space. There's so much empty space in space. And that the concept of time, too, is so massive and infinite that, the idea that an alien species will be visiting Earth now is so minuscule that unless there's some sort of problem solving the light speed issue, we're not going to be contacted by aliens, and we never have been. And more likely, aliens would have visited the dinosaurs millions of years ago, or they're going to visit here a million years in the future when humanity has long destroyed the Earth. That's things every other science fiction story. They always have to have some idea of which borders on magic, explaining away why you're able to travel faster than light speed. Because one of my favorites, I really like the Mass Effect, the video game, which they have mass relays, which essentially they also have faster than light travel, I think, from the Mass Effect engines. But the actual relays that have to do long travel between galaxies, they shoot the different points, almost more that's always interesting. And the idea of a wormhole is an interesting idea. But the fact is, as far as we know, faster than light travel is impossible. So this show deals with that really well, because the Santi, you find out, they're 4 light years away. So it's hey, we're there's an alien invasion, but it's we'll be there in 400 years. So oh, okay, I guess we'll wait for you then. It's a really interesting idea, because and that's with them traveling at 1% of light speed or something like that, or so it's that's incredibly fast, but you still only a particle can only travel at the speed of light. And mass, if you have mass, you cannot even come close to the speed of light. So it's really interesting. But I like that, so many things that, if with the dark forest concept is the idea that, every other, we are insane. If there are any other alien species around, we're broadcasting to them. We're did you see that planet Earth? They're crazy. They're broadcasting. They're one of these other alien species. They're going to go kill them. It's the idea that no one yells out, because if you do, you will draw the attention from a higher species and they will destroy you. But it's an interesting idea. But the other one that's essentially that because space travel is so difficult, and that it's so you can't go anywhere, the time and the power involved in and everything, that every civilization has destroyed itself before it was able to become a higher civilization. That's the different things of civilization, like where you're allowed, you bring, like, build a superstructure around the sun to harbor the power of the sun, to like to make it massive amounts of power. Like different like civilizations. There's a lot of interesting concepts with and series with. It's there's science fictiony, but it also actual like bordering on the actual science. There's a lot of cool stuff with that. It's really interesting to read about and discuss. But for this show, it was created by David Benioff and D.B. Weiss, along with Alexander Wu. But Benioff and Weiss, they're the ones that did Game of Thrones, and this is they actually were able to make a show. It was so weird because like they were going on to bigger and better things when they decided to destroy Game of Thrones, and it was so bad. Everyone was just like, we don't want to do your thing. And so they lost Star Wars. They lost their weird Civil War show, but they were able to get this. Although this was not without controversy, because like this, the Chinese millionaire or like multimillionaire, like he had bought the rights to Three Body Problem, and like I think he even did some stuff with like Tencent, like the movie and the video games and stuff. But they didn't really do well. They're pretty crappy. And he would have this business partner that he was like apparently going to fire, and this business partner like poisoned him to death. And he's actually was just recently sentenced to the death penalty. Then like the guy that owned the rights to this was killed, like because he was a fan of Breaking Bad, and he thought he could make his own poison and bought stuff on the dark web, like neurotoxin from blowfish and mercury and different things, and made his own fake probiotics, which is like a Russian roulette with like a couple of pills in the bottle were poisonous, and like killed this guy and really hurt these other two business partners, which are gonna have lifelong problems from this. But I mean, that's there's a lot of shenanigans surrounding this. But the actual show it is really good. Like it's essentially, I think it's like it gathers like the first two books of the Three Body Problem, I think, or like most of book two. I'm not sure of all of it, but so I think we'll probably get at least one more season. I'm not sure how much. I'm not sure how many books there are. I know there's at least a trilogy, but like it's gonna be really interesting how they do this. And I think it's like when I talked to my brother, I know that he said that he didn't like a lot of the characters, but the ideas were incredibly interesting. And I think that this like is like a generational story, because like you have 400 years to prepare, and they also deal with they're like Desanti sent these two proton supercomputers that are quantumly linked to two proton supercomputers that they have with them, so they can see everything that we're doing, and they're worried that we're moving too fast, and by the time they get to Earth, we might be able to destroy them. So they're trying to kill all of our scientists. And it's such an interesting concept of them like attacking our science and like changing like our electron colliders and different thing messing with our science, changing the results, and that if people are building something that could be used against them, they're making them go crazy and changing what they see, and they see a timer counting down. And like the main hook of the show, the begin, like before you even get to any of it, is that these scientists are seeing countdown and they're killing themselves. You have a Benedict Wong as a Da Shi, and he's like an investigator trying to figure out what's going on. And you have Liam Cunningham as kind of like the guy that's in charge of everything. And you have this kind of these group of friends that were all in college together, and like some of the brightest minds of the world, like Jovan Adepo, Elza Gonzalez, Jess Hong, Alex Sharp, and John Bradley, from Game of Thrones. Like there's an interesting idea that I don't know how much they change. I'm not sure how much of this is like all taking place in China. Like a big part of it is China, where like there's also like there's stuff about like the political revolution that happened, like when they were trying to get rid of science, and there's a lot of stuff then going on with the character like trying to like talk to other alien species, and that's what first gets the attention of the Santi. And I wonder, I'm not sure because I know this is a Chinese book that originally, so I don't know like if it more of it takes place in China, and this they adapted it to take place more in London, although still have some of the Chinese aspect of it. I really don't know. Like I'm after seeing the show though, I might have to give the book a chance, because there's a lot of interesting stuff that I would kind of like to dive further into. But I mean, this really is like an epic show. Like there's a lot to go on, and this whole thing that like the parts of it like where like these people have this like way futuristic virtual reality. Although like they didn't really explain how it works much. Although I was considering it like that, how like I heard other people were talking about it, and I guess once you bring in the aspect of the proton supercomputer, that like it could just be a piece of metal that they told them that the people manufacture, and they put it on, and the proton supercomputer is overlaying images on the mind, and there's nothing in it. Like it's actually it's just like a metal hat. It actually is nothing. It's just a proton supercomputer like overlaying the images on their eyes. But they essentially that they're shown this three body problem where there's this solar system that has three suns, and the planet, which is like getting grabbed by different suns that are larger and smaller, and sometimes like they different chaotic and different like good areas, like where they essentially when they're too close, when the bigger sun, when they're in the when it grabs them in its gravity, like they burn up. And there's a lot of interesting stuff. They snuck in a bit of nudity, a bit of floppy dick, floppy wiener, floppy wiener, floppy wiener, floppy wiener. The old South Park Game of Thrones song, but it's kind of cool. But like that's the one aspect that it wasn't that interesting. Like I loved more interesting that like the mystery at first, and then trying to figure out how to deal with the Santi. Like that's what I really was interested in. Although like, and there's some crazy scenes. Like there's one of the most brutal scenes like I've ever seen in a TV show. That's like a combination of the lasers from the first Resident Evil movie and Ghost Ship. It's brutal, and it's like it's even more implied violence with a little bit more. They showed the after effects, but it's the kind of stuff like I almost don't know how they get away with it. But it's like implied, heavily implied, showing the after effects even of like mass murder, like in the most brutal way possible, but like futuristically. Like there's a lot of like I said, there's so much interesting stuff, and all the actors are great. And I think that I didn't love it, but I really liked it. I'll have to see how it handles the rest of the story. That thing, like it chose a spot just to end, and I felt like it wasn't like a natural ending spot almost. It was just kind of getting going with another aspect of the story, and then it just kind of ended, But like it's very interesting, and I'm in it. Like I want to see more. Like it's got me intrigued. But I probably give like an 8.5 out of 10, 8.25 out of 10. I would recommend it. It's an interesting science fiction show that's really different. I look at an alien invasion. But thanks for watching. If you want to see more of me, you can subscribe down below. Thanks.